everybody, this is Ryan McClanahan with HistoryThroughCards.com. I hope you're all doing very well today. So, I've been looking forward to this for quite some time because I just picked up a new Nolan Ryan card for my collection. It's a 1973 Topps. And before I get into that card, though, I wanted to kind of tell you guys a little bit about Nolan Ryan's career and the other two Topps cards that I have. I'm also going to talk about his rookie cards as well and some other things. Uh, the first card I picked up was pre-pandemic. Actually, both of these were picked up pre-pandemic when I was a kid, and it happens to be the 1969 Tops. And I actually picked this up probably about 5 years ago for about $35. And it's in very good, excellent condition. There is like a little bit of a crease, but I didn't really negotiate with the dealer because I felt that $35 was a fair price, and the dealer was actually has been very good to me over the past years or so. So I didn't do that, but for the most part, you guys should always renegotiate or negotiate for a better price. It never hurts to do that, and I really actually enjoy this card for several reasons. First, it's got a really nice design, and I think actually Topps may have repurposed the font here for the 1982 hockey set, but I mean that's okay. They've done it in years past, and they'll do it in the future. But a lot of collectors actually like this particular card because it's his first solo card, and I know he shares a rookie card with Ron Tompkins, but he's actually got three rookie cards, which a lot of collectors might not know about. So he's got a regular rookie card that was printed here in the United States, but he also has a Venezuelan rookie card too, which is cloth. And those cards are really difficult to find in high grade just because of the conditions that they were in Venezuela. Humidity really doesn't do very well for cards, obviously, or any kind of um, I guess like printed material or paint, in fact. And so the last place that you want to actually uh, store your card collection is in a place of high humidity or a basement, in fact, or maybe sometimes an attic. I think maybe putting a card collection in your attic might be a little bit safer than in your basement, but um, you also want to store your card collection in a place that is kind of free of light as well. The other thing, too, or the other card that I wanted to kind of mention is his Milton Bradley, because this is really kind of an interesting card. Not just because it came from Milton Bradley, which I find really fascinating. Um, those cards were printed and more, I guess, or a higher quantity than any of his other rookies. And I have here, I don't have the exact card. That would be really kind of astounding. But I do have a regular 1968 Topps, and let me see. And I have a 1968 Topps Milton Bradley. And if you're ever confused on which one is which, uh, this is actually the Milton Bradley. And I think I've kind of told you guys about this particular card in a past video. The way you can tell kind of on the front is that the Jim Cat here is more of a brighter card, and the Milton Bradleys are going to be darker. And I actually kind of really enjoy this particular card. I like the photograph first off, and now Jim Cat's in the Hall of Fame, and this is still very affordable for you guys if you want to go and try to grab one. The other thing too, on the back of these cards, you can definitely tell that there's a color variation on the regular card, and as opposed to the um, Milton Bradley card, which is a lot darker in appearance. The other thing too that you're going to want to notice about the Milton Bradley is, I don't know if you can see this or if it'll come out, but there is a white line either at the top or the bottom, depending on where the card is situated on the sheet. And in this case, the white line is at the top. So that's something that I actually would prefer seeing on a Milton Bradley card. Sometimes it can be actually really difficult, especially if you're a novice collector and trying to figuring all this stuff out. When I was first collecting vintage, about 14 years old, I made a lot of mistakes. And the thing is, you you really should be making mistakes because it's the best way to learn. Um, my first Nolan Ryan card that I picked up when I was a teenager was a 1971 Topps, and um, what somebody had done was they took a magic marker, a black Sharpie, and they touched up the corners and the sides. Now, I didn't know this until I already bought the card. I think I paid 75 for it at the time, and I took it to a buddy of mine who gave me a second opinion. I showed it to him, and he's like, "Yeah, this is no good. It's you need to return it because it's problematic." And I kind of haggled with the dealer, and at first he wouldn't give me a refund, but I said that I didn't know that this card was damaged, uh, and so eventually he did return my money. But the thing is, if you're going to collect 1971 Topps baseball, you should actually bring with you a black light, and that's going to show you just exactly where, if in fact it has been hit by a magic marker or a Sharpie. Um, it was a very valuable mistake that I made early on, and something that I did not do again. And that's the thing with mistakes is that you know it, if you make the mistake once, that's fine. But if you make the same mistake more than once, now it's on you. And the thing is, like, in this hobby, like you're always going to come across cards that you might not know anything about, or very little about, or you don't know what uh, in particular is something that you should be looking at. And in my case, I've been here doing cards and vintage since '94, and I still haven't seen everything out there, but what I still do is I take photographs of the cards, and I take a lot of notes as well. And I always really kind of tend to get a second opinion if I don't know something. And in this case, with the Milton Bradley cards, I wasn't exactly sure as to what I should be looking for. And so I contacted Dakota from Sports Cards Anonymous, and I asked him, and he got right on it, uh, and there you go. So thanks, Dakota. I really appreciate that. It's always better to have a second opinion. It doesn't matter if it's a card show or a doctor's office or a mechanic. You probably should get a second opinion on a lot of stuff, because there's only so much that you're going to know about, and even with my background, I still will do that, and I might not actually uh, buy a card at a show. Instead, I do take a lot of notes, and so I use those notes as reference material. And I also at shows, I'll take a black light with me and a jeweler's loop, and also as well. I might take a card as reference as well. If I'm looking for a specific card, I'm going to line up the card, and I'm going to look at both of them side by side to see if there's any flaws or anything that I might have missed or should be looking at. And again, there's certain cards that you're going to want to look at really kind of, you know. in great detail because, for example, the 1960 Topps Frank Gifford, that card is notorious for certain defects, and a lot of cards are actually notorious for certain defects, depending on where the card is placed on the sheet, and but it depends on the card and depends on the year of manufacture, and there's a lot of other intricate details that are maybe only specific to that card or manufacturer. So, um, the other Nolan Ryan I grabbed was uh, this right here. And this is a 1976 Nolan Ryan. And I've had this card for, a long time. And I've had probably half a dozen of these particular cards, but I trashed them as a kid. And this one actually happens to be really nice. The thing you want to kind of look at with the 1976 is the centering, but it is really still kind of cheap. I think you can pick up this particular card for about 20, $25 or less on a good day, maybe $8 or $10. But it happens to be a great photo of Nolan Ryan, and it's something I really enjoy in my collection, and I had to pick one up. So, here's a little bit about Nolan Ryan. So, he actually made his debut on September 11th, 1966, and he retired on September 22nd, 1993. Let me just put that away real quick and grab the other card. Sorry about this, guys. All right. The one really interesting thing that I've been looking over in Nolan Ryan's stats and his career is that a lot of times he's ranked right up there with Bob Feller, and I really don't think that that's a very fair assessment. Um, Bob Feller and Nolan Ryan played in two different eras. Uh, the only thing I think that they have in common is that when they first came up, they were very, very wild pitchers, and I know they both could pitch over 100 miles an hour. And Bob Feller was clocked in at over 105 miles an hour in 1946 when they had radar, and I can't even imagine what he would have clocked in like 1937 or 1938 or 39. Um, the thing is that both these guys are scary for different reasons than Bob Gibson. Now, I wouldn't want to face Bob Gibson or Sal Magley at their height because those guys, or even Don Drysdale, those guys were very scary because they could take your head off. And if Bob Feller ever hit you with a baseball in the head, you'd be out like a light, or he could probably kill you. Not that he would ever want to, but the simple fact is that Bob Feller was really notoriously uh, a shaky ball player. The ball could go in any direction when he was in a young ball player, 16, 17, 18 years old. He finally got his control issues over, uh, and uh, Nolan Ryan actually had to go down to the minor leagues, which is what something that Bob Feller didn't have to do. Bob Feller was actually uh, kind of, I would say, he was drafted right out of the cornfield and into the major leagues, which is really kind of unusual. Nolan Ryan's uh, his control issues were a huge problem, and the other thing that was a huge problem for Nolan Ryan on the New York Mets was really kind of two things. He didn't like to play it in New York. He really didn't. He said that it was something that it was kind of concerning to him. Uh, just the rotation. I think he was fourth or fifth in the rotation, and on a rainy day they would skip over him. So he also had Tom Seaver on his team as well. He was a teammate, and I kind of forgot. I kind of forgot about that detail. But Uh, Tom Seaver, Steve Carlton, and Don Sutton were Nolan Ryan's contemporaries at the time in the 1960s, and really interesting thing about these players is that between Tom Seaver, which I know his cards have gone up in value because I think he passed away, and that's usually what happens. Unfortunately, it's kind of morbid, really. But Tom Seaver is really kind of an amazing ball player. And he overshadowed Nolan Ryan early on. And it wasn't until Nolan Ryan ends up going to the California Angels in 1971 for Jim Fregosi, who was actually a six-time All-Star. He was a shortstop. But the funny thing about that trade was that baseball historians really think it is one of the worst trades that the Mets ever made. And I'm not going to dispute that at all. I think that the Mets probably made even worse trades than that. I mean, they were a pretty bad ball team in the 1960s up until the time that Gil Hodges became manager and kind of straightened them out. And obviously, they went to the World Series, and Nolan Ryan got in one game of that World Series, which a lot of people tend to forget about, even yours truly. I do love the 1969 Mets, though. They are a really incredible team, and I'm really glad that Gil Hodges was able to get in the Hall of Fame. It's really been a long time coming. The thing with Nolan Ryan too is that he's got a 324 win record against a 292 loss record, and that's really kind of cutting it close, I think. The other thing, with Steve Carlton and Don Sutton and Tom Seaver is that those guys had similar, I guess, wins, but they had less losses. And they also have what Nolan Ryan doesn't, which was a Cy Young award. And Nolan Ryan never pitched a perfect game either. But Don Sutton and Steve Carlton, their cards really don't sell very well, which is really too bad because they have kind of long careers too. I want to say off the top of my head, Don Sutton stopped playing in 1987 or so, or 1986 or 1988, around there or so, and Steve Carlton in 1988. But again, these guys are amazing ball players. They're amazing pitchers. That their cards don't translate very well into cash for anyone who's trying to buy and sell their cards. Tom Seaver now is a little bit different, just because again, he did pass away. And only time will tell if his cards go up in price or down in value. Generally, I think that um, these guys, all of them, including Nolan Ryan, for a certain extent, um, the values that are placed on these cards are generational. So you see in the 1980s Beckett's that I mean, all these guys are playing in the 1980s, so it may affect their values then. But once they start retiring, um, you know, we're not paying what people were paying for these cards in the 1980s. They weren't really worth a lot, except for Nolan Ryan. I remember that Nolan Ryan's rookie in his 1969 Topps card were going for about 550 and up in the early 90s and the late 80s, and then they kind of went downhill. Now you're not really picking up a 1969 Topps Nolan Ryan or a 69 Topps Johnny Bench for like 350 to 500 or 800, isn't the case with uh, Reggie Jackson. Almost forgot that one there. Uh, that's the generations right there, because it's my father's generation who saw these guys in their prime. I really didn't see any of these guys. Tom Seaver, I think he retired in 1986 with the Red Sox, and even then I didn't get to see him. I did see. Pedro Martinez again, and I did get to see Roger Clemens on the Red Sox, and Roger Clemens is really kind of on and off for me, on and off the field. Anyway, especially in that 1992 season. But the other thing too, I wanted to tell you about before I show you that card, that 73 card, was that Nolan Ryan, he led the league in strikeouts 11 times between night the first. So he's comes and goes in spurts when he's leading the league in this stuff. Uh, 1972 to 1974, 1976 to 1978, and then 1987 to 1990. The other card too, and I don't have it, but you guys might like his 1991 Topps Desert Storm or Desert Shield card. I think over time the 1991 Desert Shield set is going to be one of the more iconic sets of the 20th century just because of its background and because of its history. Um, those cards are really kind of very unique in the latter half of the 20th century just because they were issued uh, to go overseas and only half of them made it back, if that. So here's the 1973 Topps Nolan Ryan, and I've actually been looking for this card for a long time. Uh, when I was a kid, I used to make fun of this set on a regular basis just because of its look, its aesthetic appeal. And the one thing that this set kind of reminds me of is a TV show from the 1970s called Space 1999, and I'll show you a photo of that, and then you can compare the jersey and the design to it. So, uh, in any event, uh, this card in particular is not very tough. It is not a tough card to find. But what's really kind of difficult is the centering on this particular card is extremely difficult. I can show you guys a PSA population report to show you that the card is not difficult. And it's going to show you another thing too is where these cards stand today, uh, in regards to condition. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly what to look for on this card, and then I'm going to show you a sheet where this card was actually placed on that sheet. And when you see both of them, you're going to really kind of have a better understanding of why this card is found in such horrible condition. I do really have seen other cards that are in at least the same condition. But if you're collecting this card, the one thing that you're going to notice right off the bat is the centering issues. And I know a lot of cards from the 1970s have centering issues, but the way that this card was placed makes it that the centering is from, what is it, I guess, left to right. Usually it's uh, 70-30 70-40. My math is about as good as a bumblebee's these days. And or 90-10. In a lot of cases, the edge is completely gone. It's completely missing. And I've seen a lot of these cards where centering is 90-10 or worse, left to right. And that's because it's all the way on the edge of the sheet. I think 3 or 4 cards to the bottom, and I'll show you what that looks like. retired after 27 years. He was actually the last active player to play in the 1960s. Carlton Fisk had just retired, and Fisk came up in 1969. So between those two guys, Ryan was the last. And when Ryan ended up in the Hall of Fame, he was actually one of five pitchers to enter Cooperstown with more strikeouts than innings pitched. And the other guys are Pedro Martinez, Sandy Koufax, Trevor Hoffman, who I've never seen play, and Randy Johnson. And I did get to see Johnson play in the 2002 World Series, and that was quite good. It was really neat. Obviously, I did see Pedro, and Sandy Koufax is really interesting too because he really only played in 10 years, and half of that time with the Brooklyn Dodgers, he showed um, flashes of brilliance, but until like 1960 or so, and afterwards is where he really shined. So that's really kind of impressive today as well. Show you the back of this card, and I've actually never seen it. In fact, um, this card is not a card that I was actually looking for at shows, and I don't think I actually ever saw one at a show. And as I tell you guys all the time too, shows are really great because they're like interactive classrooms. There's a lot of ways you can learn from a show, specifically how many cards you see and the details of that card. Now, the back of this card, it says Nolan became fourth greatest strikeout hurler in modern baseball in 1972. Only Sandy Koufax, 382 in 1965, Rube Waddell, 349 in 1904, and Bob Feller, 348 in 1946, have exceeded Nolan's 329 Ks last season. And it also says here it gives his record. And I see 1966, he came up with Greenville for 29 games, and then Williamsport for three. And then the Mets, he came up with 2 games in 1966, and then went down to Winter Haven again in 67 for 1 game, and then 67 with Jacksonville. So he really wasn't pitching all that much until 1968 when he came up with the Mets for 21 games and 134 innings pitched. So he really wasn't doing a whole lot in his early career, just kind of trying to solve his own pitching problems. But the really kind of the interesting thing here, I think, is he gets better as he ages, and he also had to switch uh, his the way he pitched as well as he got older, because at some point he did lose his fastball. So I remember him kind of having to use trick pitches as he got older. But I also wanted to tell you a little bit about his no hitters and why this card is really kind of important for collectors, and why it's kind of on the more expensive side compared to anything else, even after this card was issued. The 1972 tops is a little bit more expensive, and I can kind of understand why, considering what I just read to you guys. Um, and so uh, his first no hitter was actually on May 15th, 1973, versus the Royals, and the second one was July 15th, 1973, versus the Tigers. Now, up until that point, he comes into a very exclusive club, having been, I think, one of only three pitchers to have no hitters in the same season. And if I'm right, Ali Reynolds of the Yankees and Johnny Vandermeer and Virgil Fire Trucks were the others. And Johnny Vandermeer, I think, maybe have been the first pitcher to actually get two back-to-back no-hitters in 1938 with the Reds. Uh, Virgil Trucks was, I think, with the Tigers at the time, and some people kind of think that he should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not entirely sure. He might be borderline. But Ali Reynolds, I actually think he should be in the Hall of Fame. And he's really kind of a player that is not really talked about these days. He played with the Yankees, and when you think of the Yankees in the 1940s and 50s, the last thing you think of is pitching. But they did have some really stellar pitching on those clubs as well. So that's why that card is actually worth a little bit more. The 1973 tops, and why collectors really kind of wanted to add it to their collections. Um, he has actually seven no hitters, and the third was on September 28th, 1974, versus the Twins, and then on June 1st, 1975, he faced the Orioles for another no hitter, and the I believe the fifth was September 26th, 1981, versus the Dodgers, and that was a pennant race. And up until that point, I believe he was on a 12-game losing streak to the Dodgers. So that was kind of important. Um, and then September 11th, 1990, he had another no hitter versus the Athletics. And his seventh and final one was on May 1st, 1991, versus the Blue Jays. So, um, guys, I really appreciate you sticking around and hearing about this. And let me know if you have a favorite Nolan Ryan card or a great story. And again, I love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below. And again, thanks a lot. And until the next time, I will talk to you guys later. Thanks. Bye.